Steve. It's another time we get to talk on the Steel Target Paint podcast. You been shooting much lately?
Heck yeah, Jeff. I had a couple of milestones this past weekend. I shot the local Griffin Gun Club match, and I shot my fastest six-stage single stack time. I shot my fastest open time I've ever shot. And unfortunately, I had a little bit of a mechanical malfunction with my Rimfire rifle open gun. And so, you know, the TK superfan, Mike Baker, and his lovely wife, Elsie.
Absolutely.
So she let me borrow the Lady Tar Heel rifle. And so I went to Showdown, and, you know, I said, hey, at this point, had some issues on a previous stage, so my match is kind of out the window. And Jeff, I put the pedal down to the floor. So I shot the fastest string I've ever shot in Steel Challenge competition. And it was on Showdown, so we talked about what's the fastest stage out there.
Yep.
So I threw down a 1.18 second run. It was quick.
118. That's crazy fast on a borrowed gun.
You know, it was interesting because it has that Blackhawk Axiom stock. It's got a Taxol barrel on it, the SPX barrel, and so it's definitely a lighter gun. And so, you know, it was a little bit of spray and pray. I just kind of flipped the gun on the first target in the back, and I just pulled the trigger and transitioned the gun as quickly as I could, and somehow I connected on all five. And then I tried to repeat that, and I had a makeup, I think, on my second string. It was like a 150. Tried to repeat it again. I think I had one or two makeups, and I was in that 160 range. And then, yeah, I had to eat a miss. And then my last string, I think it was in the 220. Had to, I don't know, almost emptied a mag and got like a 220. So I still shot a 6.6. I know, right? I shot a 663. I know it sounds like third world problems. But if I would have gotten that fourth string, I'm sure it would have been sub 6. So I could shoot with the likes of Chris Barrett. But, yeah, no, it was pretty cool. It was exciting. There was people from other bays coming over and saying, hey, what just happened? Everybody was, you know, we were all excited. So
Absolutely.
It was a fun time. But you been shooting lately, Jeff?
Oh, man, did I do some shooting this weekend? We had the annual monster match at Universal Shooting Academy. 8 stages of at least 50 rounds per stage. And my round count for the match was 425. And
Holy cow.
Yeah, for the steel shooters out there, we had a great stage. It was 59 falling pieces of steel. And you stood in a box, and you had 30 seconds. Now, here's the rub. The steel was painted orange, and you were shooting through 3 layers of orange fencing. You know that safety fencing?
Oh, yeah. How could you see it?
Yeah, you couldn't. And, of course, then add the sun and a red dot, and it was quite a challenging stage. I did pretty good. I ended up knocking down 50 poppers in the time frame allotted, and that was a lot of fun. But the match has definitely got a flair. There's, we had one stage that had 60 rounds on it. So, even for those that are shooting, like me, shoot a PCC and maybe using the MBX big stick, the mega stick with 57, you're still doing a reload.
Wow. So
all the targets.
So it's kind of, is it a pro-am style format where you have a par time that you have to shoot
For
under?
the steel stage, it was a par time. Everything else was hit factor scoring. So it's just,
gotcha.
Points divided by time. But it was a lot of fun. And then we followed up Sunday with a local match at a range down here in Ruskin, and that was another 130 rounds. So in USPSA through the PCC, I put through about 550 rounds this weekend, which most steel shooters go, we do that in half a day.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, Jeff, you got to level with me. What's up with the pirate costume?
Well, a buddy of mine was calling me Whitebeard because I'm growing out my goatee. And the little story behind that is I'm trying to lose some weight, and I said I'm not going to shave until the weight's off. And I said, why not get dressed up for the match? Because when you get dressed up for the match, you get a free 25 points. And
Really?
so it was an advantage to get dressed up. So I said, what costume can I wear that's conducive to shooting? Because trust me, it would have been great out there to get in like a sumo suit. That would have been hilarious. Or one of
The T-Rex.
the T-Rex. Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Uh,
That's funny. That would be hilarious. Not real conducive to having a good score. So, but there was one of our good friends, Dave Jenkins, dressed up as a knight. He used to be in the SCA, and I mean, full mask and crazy. It was pretty impressive. But there was an Uncle Sam, and we had Marshall Lucky, old time Marshall, and a saloon gal, and there was the Hulk. One guy came dressed as Randy Macho Man Savage.
That's awesome.
It's quite a match. It's a lot of fun. So for those that have never shot it, I highly recommend, if you want to burn about 400 rounds or more on a one-day match, this is the match to do it. So Steve, we're going to do another stage breakdown today. We've had some great interviews with some great competitors, but I think our listeners want to hear about our views on a stage, and everybody wants to say that Outer Limits is the hardest stage, but when you really look at it, I think Pendulum might be the one to break down today. What do you think?
Sounds great. The stage that everybody loves to hate.
Absolutely. Max Michelle says we can get rid of it.
Maybe we need to petition the board. Zach Jones. Zach Jones, are you listening? Don't worry, Zach. If you need another stage, I'm sure Jeff and I, we are more than capable and qualified to come up with an adequate substitute or replacement.
Yeah,
What do you think, Jeff?
I'm thinking, 5 18 by 24s at about 7 yards away. I could still miss him in Smoking Hope, so I could still miss him there.
Hey, maybe we just do this. Who said Steel Challenge needed 8 stages? 7? How about 6? Let's pick another one to throw away.
This year they passed the rule. We did it at West Florida. Zach did it in South Carolina. Level 2 matches only have to have 6 stages.
I'm liking it.
You said it to me down at my match here at the Wyoming Antelope Club. It just made for a lot of fun, fast shooting.
Yeah, and it was great because you could shoot a morning and afternoon session, and the lights were still up. You know what I mean? It wasn't dark out. Outside of the rain a little bit. You know it rained at your match, Jeff?
Oh yes, it did rain. That is true. I'm just
end of days type rain.
So Pendulum. A couple classic ways to shoot it. How do you shoot it?
Wow, this is a long, long story. I'm not sure if I've told you this part of the story before, but the way that I had been shooting it for, I don't know, probably a year and a half or 2 years ago, for 2 years, was 1-2, 4-3 stop. So I'm coming up on the far left target, which is the 12-inch play. Then I have that blind transition down to the 10-inch. And then I swing the gun really quick over that plate number 4, which is the far right 12-inch. Then I come down to the 10-inch to the stop plate. So I was shooting it like that for, I don't know, probably a year and a half or 2 years. Jeff, did I tell you recently I changed my order? And
Did you
I tell
really?
You why? I
You didn't tell me. You didn't tell me either. And let's hear what your order is, and then I'll tell you if that's the order I'm shooting it in.
All right. So when I did some training with Dave and a couple other folks, they all shot at 1, 2, 3, 4 stop. And so that's what I've gone back to. But the story of why I've gone back to it's probably more interesting. Zach Jones, hopefully you're listening. I was at a local match over at Zach's club, and we were talking about Pendulum. We were getting ready to shoot Pendulum. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, Steve, how do you shoot Pendulum?" I said, "Oh, yeah, Zach, I had a tough time with that plate number 3, but since I've been shooting at 1, 2, 4, 3 stop, I don't even think about it as I'm going to the stop plate." And then, you know what Zach said?
What do you say?
Zach says, wow, Steve, I can't believe you're not missing that plate 3 all the time. And so I said, nah, Zach, I haven't missed it in like a year. So I get up to the firing line and are you ready? Stand by. Beep. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, stoplight. So I think I missed plate number 3 out of the 5 strings. So thank you, Mr. Jones. And so now I shoot a 1, 2, 3, 4 stop just to change it up in my head, because I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer when it comes to pendulum, but whatever you feel most comfortable with and you can be consistent is the way that I think that you need to shoot pendulum. So how do you shoot pendulum, Jeff?
Well, I was a 1, 2, 3, 4 stop for the longest time. And I started looking at it, and one day in practice, I just started doing some draw practice on plate 3. And I realized that I was just as fast on plate 3 as I was on plate 1.
Interesting.
And I said, well, if I can do that, then if I'm coming up on plate 3, well, then I got plate 4. Then I've got a quick transition over to plate 1, and then I'm 3 shots in the way I like to shoot, which is left to right.
Right.
So I started playing around with that, and it's working for me. In fact, last week at the range, no proof, just me being there, nobody else. I was throwing some sub 2s, and I actually got a sub 190. I was a 189. And for me, that's pretty darn good for pendulum.
Oh, that's cooking.
So it was a little bit of a blind squirrel, but what I found is also where I stand in the box is making a big difference. Oddly enough, like roundabout, if I'm further on the right side, the left side of the plates actually get a little closer. Not much, but just a little closer together. And so for me, I'm standing on the right side of the box. Or excuse me, sorry, take that back. I'm standing on the left side of the box, okay, which being a right-handed shooter, that gun's coming almost straight up off low ready into plate 3. And then it's a quick transition to 4, and then snapping over to 1, and then 2, 3 stop. Now, similar to what I've been playing around with 5 to go, you get your speed by trusting yourself and getting 2 quick shots. And I'm sure you're doing the same thing when you're shooting pendulum. It's just opposite. You're going 1, 2, I'm going 3, 4.
Right.
I think I don't know if it was Trenton that called it tick-tocking, but when you have those stages that are very like a metronome, bang, 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 the cadence is very similar. Your splits are very similar. That's where you can really, I think, pick up time. If you can pick that up, that you're doing that. And if you look at what you've got there with 1, 2, it's really not that much of a transition to get down to plate 2 from plate 1. Would you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the trap that people fall into is it's a blind transition, meaning that if you're a right-handed shooter and you're shooting like a rimfire rifle open gun, you can't necessarily see where the gun's going to as you come down. Agreed. And so that's the one that you just have to be careful of.
Yep.
And I've been doing a lot of coaching and training here in the last couple weeks with some last couple of folks have been with a couple of youth shooters, and we spent a lot of time on pendulum because I think that of all the stages we shoot in Steel Challenge, pendulum I think requires more accuracy than any of them because of those 10-inch plates. What are they out at? 18 yards, Jeff?
18 yards.
And that's a pretty deliberate shot, and so the 12-inch, not too bad. But you need to make sure that you're stopping the gun, seeing the target, seeing the sight on the target, and squeezing the trigger, especially with a handgun, because even the best of us like to slap or jerk the trigger just a little bit when you're trying to move the gun at an expeditious rate. And so, one of the tips that I've shared with some of these junior shooters that, they're shooting heavy rifles. I know Tactical Solutions makes a great aluminum receiver, aluminum barrel, so it takes a lot of the weight out of it. But, if you have a youth shooter that's 9, 10, or 11 years old, they may not necessarily have the upper body strength. And so what I tell them is grab a hold of that stock and pull it in slightly on your shoulder. We talked a little bit about that on 5 to Go
Yep.
on plates 3 and 4. The same thing on Pendulum. You don't want to pull so hard on the stock that it inhibits your ability to move at all, not to be too tense. But what happens is that if you just pull on the end of the gun just a little bit, you don't necessarily want to do it with your right hand. I always pull a little bit harder with my left hand than my right, because if you pull with your right hand, you constrict your trigger finger on your right hand if you're right-handed, and that can be bad. But that little bit of tug on that stock into your shoulder really stabilizes the end of the gun, and it helps you become more accurate so you can actually see the target or see the sight on the target longer in order to get your hits.
Completely agree. I remember that discussion, and you're absolutely right. You've got to cinch that gun in. Uh, a lot of pistol shooters will talk about their grip, but there's that grip uh, on a rifle as well. And it's, buttstock, solid against the shoulder. And I don't know how many times I've been in a low ready and something doesn't feel right. And, the RO will say, "Are you ready?" And I'll say, "No." I think a lot of competitors, I may have mentioned it before, if you're not ready, doesn't feel right, bug flies in your eyes, sun comes out from behind a cloud, just say no.
Yeah. Yep.
And then get reset. It's well within your right as a shooter to do that, for any reason. Uh, so once you've got that cinch, now you talked about, you don't want to cinch it too hard, and that's correct because you don't want to be overcompensating. But the one thing that I've been working on, especially with Pendulum, is twisting at the hips. The
Oh
twist
yeah,
is the
absolutely.
twist is not in the shoulders. The twist is in the hips, and so you can sometimes cinch that gun just maybe a little more than you'd expect, uh, because you're still twisting at the hips. Um, and Chris Barrett, we've mentioned him a number of times, and I know he trains with you. He's got a very interesting stance, and I was talking with his dad, Jeff, and what Jeff was saying was it gives him the best opportunity to twist in the stage. And so if you get a chance to see Chris, watch him and see, I'm not saying mimic his stance, but watch how he turrets or pivots at the hips. It's very deliberate. And of course it works for him. He's very fast.
Yeah, and one of the things, Jeff, that Chris and I have talked about, and we've spent, I won't tell you all of our secrets, but we spent some time on Pendulum, is he pivots and does that ratchet motion so well. And especially, take the rifle side out of it, because I think what happens to even some of the best of us, we can get away with the little things because it's easier, in my opinion, to shoot a rifle than it is a handgun. But what happens is that lack of ratchet motion and, turning or twisting at the lower body in between your knees and in your hips and rotating that way instead of throwing your hands around, what happens is that all those issues are magnified when you're shooting a pistol. And so Pendulum is definitely one of those stages. We talked a little bit about you can drive by play 2 maybe on the accelerator, or some of these fast stages like Smoke and Hope. But Pendulum's one of those ones that if you don't stop the gun on the plate, odds are you're not going to get away with too many of them. But you just have to transition the gun extremely fast in order to get a fast pendulum time. There's a couple of people that I call it floating the gun or floating the targets, where they can just kind of drive by, if you will, just, keep the gun in motion and pull the trigger and maybe see it. But, I go back to playing basketball when I was younger. It's always easier to shoot a foul shot than it is a jump shot, because a jump shot, it's like the backboard's moving while you're trying to shoot. And the same thing happens when you're trying to shoot at targets and you don't stop the gun.
Absolutely. And, part of the thing too there, we talked about it we might have talked about it in the Cole interview, but there's the video of him, and it's a slow motion video, and even in slow mo, you can see he's stopping on every plate. And I said, the real key to this game is learning how to stop fast. If you can be fast and stop fast, yes, drive-bys work and you can get really fast, but I don't think the consistency's there.
I got that T-shirt this weekend, Jeff. When I shot that showdown time, brother, that gun didn't stop at all until the last shot was fired.
So let me ask you this, and I know in Pendulum, for those that shoot it 1, 2, 3, 4, plate 4 is probably missed the most in a string like that. And I believe it's because people are hoping to get back to the stop plate in a rush. Now, you're shooting at 1, 2, 3, 4 now. What's going through your head when you're in that transition? Are you taking any extra time on plate 4, or is it just a natural reaction or a natural flow that you've got when you're shooting that stage?
It's interesting you asked me that question because I think, I've had a little bit of difficulty with Pendulum lately. It's interesting when I look back when I started to get pretty good before I have my most recent real job, and I stopped shooting for, probably 4, 5, 6 years or so. I actually shot one of the fastest times, 8 years ago. I don't know if it was 2010, 2011 Georgia State match. I was shooting Rimfire pistol open again. I just started to get pretty good. I think I shot Rimfire pistol open on Pendulum. It was like 880 somewhere in there. Fastest time that was shot at the match. Jeff, why can't I get back there today? I think I've developed as a shooter, and I'm a far better shooter, and I'm trying to replicate that moment, and it's tough getting back there. But what I've done with Pendulum, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, is I've chalked Pendulum up to, hey, let me get my sub 10-second run, whether it's PCC, Rimfire rifle open, or even Rimfire pistol open. If I can get out of there under 10 seconds, I call that good. And so my target time per stage is 250. So when I get up to the stage, what's going through my head is, hey, I need to start this off in the 85% range, which is right about 250, because I think I can shoot it right at 2 or sub 2. But I would try to shoot my first run right in that 250 range. And what that is, it's very deliberate, especially Pendulum, because my tendency for whatever reason is, I don't know what happens in the back of my head when I'm coming up on that first plate. I think like there's something going through my head. It's like, oh, you need to rush because you need to shoot this faster because XYZ is shooting this stage faster than you. And it's like that all is in my subconscious. And so I'm very conscious about seeing the target. Timer goes off, seeing the dot hit the target, squeezing the trigger, and I'm repeating that 4 times. But on the stop plate, I'm not saying I'm point shooting it, but I'm pretty darn assertive on the stop plate coming off plate 4. There's probably not too many people out there that are shooting it as quick as I am, but those other 4 targets, Jeff, I'm telling you what, I'm making sure that I'm seeing the target, seeing the sight, and squeezing the trigger, because I've tried to cheat it a little bit, and as soon as I cheat it, especially coming off that plate number 4, it seems like I miss it 50% of the time. And at the level that we're shooting at, and at the level of competition out there, nah, you're not getting away with that. So I need to get my, maybe if I can get a 9 or so, that's good for me. Move down the road and let me see if I can pick up some time on other people on, maybe accelerator or one of those other stages that I think I'm better than some of the other people at.
Excellent. Well, I would agree with everything you just said there. I know for me, in the way that I'm shooting it right now, and the reason I changed this way and actually stepped back and I looked at the stage and I looked at everything is I said, well, I'm coming up from low ready into 3, and then I continue up into 4.
Yeah.
So I'm not really doing a direction change there, height-wise. I'm not doing a elevation change. I'm just continuing in that way. And then I'm able to transition over at the same level to plate 1, and then I'm coming down into 2 and then over to the stop plate.
Right.
And what I found in doing it that way, of course, it's the reverse. Plate 1 is the one that you've got to make sure you hit. In fact, it's very apparent because if you miss one, your makeup, especially if you're coming off at hard onto plate 2, is going to take a lot of time. But here's the other question I have for you: is outside of outer limits, which your first shot is either going to be at 20 or 35 yards. The first shot in Pendulum is the toughest shot in the match. 18 yards. Any recommendations you can make to people? I know for me, I see a lot of people try to get up to that plate real fast, and they end up overdriving, and they might get there fast, but they're not able to execute a shot fast because the dot is still moving. And it's very difficult for our brains to want to shoot something when your dot is still moving. What do you do on that first shot, Steve? I mean, are you coming up highly aggressive, mildly aggressive? Is it smooth? How would you describe your draw on a Pendulum first shot?
That's a great question, Jeff. I kind of think it's pretty similar to my footwork with outer limits. I try to get out of the hole pretty quick from the box to the second box, but I enter the box in control with the sights aren't flailing everywhere. I'm not too out of breath by the time I get there. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
But I find it easier to pick up the dot when I'm moving the gun really hard, but then I slow down as I ease into like an outer limit second box. I'm easing into that target. So when it's stable right on that plate, then I'm off to the races. And it's not uncommon when I'm shooting Rimfire Rifle Open or PCCO that you can cover my first shots on that plate. If I'm shooting the way that I should, you can cover them with probably $50. I'm usually stacking them pretty tight because I believe on all the stages, this first shot for me, especially with the mental trouble that I've had with Pendulum lately, is more critical to get that first shot because I've got some video footage if you want to see it. Maybe I need to post some where I've been working with some people and they try to get on that first shot so quick because they feel like they need to shoot fast. I had somebody over here at my home range last week and we shot Pendulum and I told him, I said, you're a great shooter. Let's prove that. Okay, shoot plate 1, ding. Okay, shoot plate 2, ding. Shoot plate 3, ding. Shoot plate 4, ding. And shoot the stop plate, ding. I said, so now why are you missing? It's because you get that panic sensation in the back of your head for whatever reason, and still happens to me today, especially at major matches. And it's like, well, I can't shoot fast enough. I can't. Well, did you see what somebody else shot? Well, you're not somebody else, so you need to shoot your game. And what I do know over the last few years of shooting is that if I don't see the dot or the front sight on the target, I can't guarantee that I'm going to hit the target, and that's what happens. So I want to make sure I'm extremely deliberate. I transition the gun really, really hard, and then I slow it right down to get my good first shot, and then I'm trying to move the gun faster from target to target than a lot of people are doing. But I'm probably taking just another extra 0.1 or 0.15 or maybe 0.2 on every target to make sure I get my hits. And I know, Jeff, that I can shoot that stage, Rimfire Rifle Open or PCC Open. I can shoot it extremely deliberate and shoot it in 2.5 seconds. But what I also know, based on how I've shot it lately, is that if I have to get a pickup shot in there, it's going to be at 2.5 or greater. And you're not going to compete with the top 5% of the shooters out there shooting Pendulum in 11 or 12 seconds. It's just not going to happen. So that's the answer to the first shot. But I would also say that when you're working on this type of stage, if you're having some level of difficulty, you have to consciously burn into your subconscious what you need to do. So when the timer goes off, you're not sitting there thinking in the back of your head, oh, I see the plate. I must get the dot on the plate. That's why you practice and get that burned in. And so I'm working through that process right now. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, Jeff, but it's not sinking into my subconscious as well as I would like it to do. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, the thing that one of the things that I've realized too, as I've been shooting this game for a while now, all of less than 2 years, uh, is I do much better on the plates when I have a direction change off of them.
Sure.
Now, Pendulum, good example. It's almost impossible to shoot the stage and not have plates either two and or three, where you're stopping and then continuing on.
Right.
And so there's always going to be plates that you're going to have to do that. But I find that I'm better where I can stop. If I can stop, shoot, and then move, I feel more comfortable that way. And so by changing this to this way, plus allowing me to shoot the last 3 plates left to right where I like to shoot faster, it's helped me. That's really interesting. Now, you mentioned the 2.5 seconds. I'm pulling up the new times for Pendulum, and it's going down to 9.5. So we're going to have to get that 2.5 down to about a 2:35 maybe, to stay within the peak time on that stage, because everything's getting faster.
Yeah, and I think the fastest handful of folks out there are probably shooting, I don't know, between the real fast. If somebody's really, really on, they could probably shoot it in 8 seconds, but most people are shooting it 8:50 to 9 today. So, it's one of those things that try to manage, it's match management.
Yep.
If I can if I'm feeling good and I get a 250, then I have a 235. And, when I've been practicing, right out of the cold, I'll go and shoot a 215, a 215, and then my fifth one, I'm going to go after the 2. And so, I'm doing better than 10, but doing that in practice compared to at a major match are two separate things. And so, people like me, I like to ratchet it up a little bit, and some people out there just like to shoot it try to shoot it 100% all the time. And, the consistency for me has been pretty successful, and key for me, just getting those 4. Man, you got to get 4. It's not 3. If Steel Challenge was keep 3 out of 5, then boy, that'd be really good in a lot of divisions too. But getting those 4, I think it's important to start off at least a first string, something that's very deliberate and achievable for a particular stage. So it gives you a pace and a tempo to benchmark against. But the other common issue that I see a lot, Jeff, especially when I'm training folks or our own folks, is that if you have a bad run, it's okay to take a dry sight picture and get the subconscious back working, and not sit there thinking about, hey, I just missed that plate. Well, why don't you drive by the plate one more time and see the sight picture, and then just mentally reset, and then be deliberate, and then build your confidence up, and then ratchet it back down. So it's a lot of the mental side of the game, because most of the people that are sitting here listening to the podcast, they can go out and shoot Pendulum and go 1 for 1 on a target, but the mental side of putting it all together, that's key. And boy, there's a lot of these younger folks out there that are putting together a lot quicker than I am.
Well, I'm glad you said you shared that, and you said something too, and that's really apparent. It goes back to something that was said earlier when you're talking about why you changed, or you changed not because of it, but it was a turning point when Zach said, "Well, don't miss plate 3," and you did, and that, I think, probably got into your conscious mind. And subconsciously you said, I can hit this, but your conscious mind was saying, don't miss plate 3. And so that's a really important point, is that when you're at a match, and this is going out to everybody, what you believe can be a self-foretelling prophecy. If you go up and say, oh, God, it's outer limits, I suck at outer limits.
You know what's going to happen, Jeff.
Exactly. You know, I mean, and yeah, sometimes you have to fool your brain. I remember at Nationals this year, I rolled up to accelerator, and I'd been having some trouble, and the rain was going to come down, and I went, you know what? Let it rain. I got a rain suit. They got tents. I'll shoot from there. I'll be fine. And I shot one of my best accelerator rounds I had in a while. Your brain is a very powerful tool, and you have to use it for your benefit. I joke a lot of times when I'm up at the line and I'm talking to myself, and people are like, you talk a lot up there. I said, well, I talk a lot no matter what.
Have you not met Jeff Jones?
But, you know, I tell people, I said, you know, if I'm not my biggest cheerleader, who's going to be?
Right.
You gotta be up there, and you gotta pump yourself up, and you've got to say to yourself, you know what? I know how to shoot Pendulum. I've shot Pendulum 1-for-1 many times. I've just got to do it now. And when you do it, one of my favorite sayings for myself is when I have a good run, I just say, you know what, Jeff, be boring. Be boring and do it again. Just throw the exact same stage time. Oh, that was good again? Great. Be boring again. You don't have to be flashy. Just be boring. Just do what you just did.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Those are little tips that it's amazing what, you know, they can help keep your confidence up. And that's another thing too, is there's a difference between being confident and being cocky. You see some people up there, oh, watch me, I'm going to burn this stage down. And some do. Sometimes they don't. It's, to me, it's the confidence, like you've talked about it. It's the consistency, the confidence to be consistent, and knowing that, hey, one bad string, even if you take an extra shot or two into your score, hey, other people still got to perform. And if they beat you, it was their day. You know, but if you beat them, it was your day.
Yeah, to that point, Jeff, I mean, you know, I've had this conversation recently as well, is that sometimes if you're just not feeling it, you have to shoot at your current ability. You know, if you're second guessing yourself, or I don't know if we've all been there. I know I've been there, at least recently, at certain matches where, you know, I shoot a stage, I'm like, man, that was pretty good, and I hear the timer, and I'm off by, you know, my internal clock usually tells me how fast I'm shooting. But, you know, yeah, I just shot that 165, 230. What'd you just say? You know,
Timer's got to be broke.
It's got to be the timer. That lion sack of timer. But careful, Jeff, this is a G-rated show. But it's one of those things that you got to know where your head's at, and if things are, you know, if time is slowing down like that, well, you need to probably be a little bit more calculated and deliberate about your shooting, because if not, you try to push it too fast, you'll go over the edge and you'll crash and burn, and you'll start picking up, you know, makeup shots, or even take a miss or two, and that's going to be devastating.
Well, you know, here's something for everybody to think about. Steve, what's the best match time you've ever shot rimfire rifle? You don't have to get down to the tenths, just seconds.
Rimfire rifle open, let's call it a major match, because, you know, it's like one of those things at a local match. Like, yeah, I smoked that one. It's good for you. Yeah,
What would you say what's around your best time?
My fastest rimfire rifle open time at a major match was at this past year's Georgia State match. I think it was a 68.02. And coincidentally, it was the second fastest PCCO time that I ever shot. It was a 67.85, and I think I shot one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and to this day, it's the fastest rimfire rifle time I've ever shot, and I think it may be the fastest rimfire master time I've ever shot, and I think it may be the fastest rimfire master time ever shot at a major match. And so it's interesting. Two very different platforms. I shot them almost at the same exact time.
Excellent. Now, what would you say? I mean, those are your best times. What would you say is a solid time for you?
A stout time?
Solid. Just,
Oh, a
you
solid
just
time?
go out there and you had a good match. Yeah.
If I'm going out there and having fun, having a good match, I'm shooting 70-71 all day long, all day.
All right.
Yep.
So that's a solid
Yeah.
4 to 5 second difference.
Right. Yep.
Okay. And my point in asking you these questions is to help everybody relate that you're not always going to have your best match every day.
No.
And you've got to shake it off. But here's the point. 65, 71. So let's just take 71. It's 1 minute and 11 seconds. 70. All you needed was 71 seconds. You're there for 4 hours shooting that match, probably, if you're shooting an 8-stager.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
8 hours or 4 hours, okay? Do the math. 240 minutes. You can get down to the seconds. But out of that 240 minutes, all you needed was 1 minute and 11 seconds of focus, and you were throwing a solid match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how many people can say that they really stay focused the entire time? Because if you throw a string and you bomb it and it gets under your skin, you're losing your focus. You can't change it.
Got that T-shirt, Jeff. I got the shorts. I got the socks.
Oh,
I got the
there.
shoes. I got
Yeah.
the hoodie.
And again, there's always going to be things. Remember the Georgia match? 39 degrees in the morning.
Yeah.
It's tough to stay focused, but everybody's competing in that same environment.
That's exactly right.
We shot the North Florida match, and it had rained, and it was slippery, and my Solomons were on their last legs, and I actually went down going between the boxes in outer limits. I was fortunate enough, finger was out of the trigger, gun stayed forward, popped up, finished the string, and I got back, and I looked at the arrow, and I said, I'm just going to need a second, and got composed. I couldn't change what happened. You just got to go out and keep shooting. And I think
Jeff,
a lot of, yeah.
I was just going to say, I asked you at that match if anybody had video. Has that surfaced yet?
No, there was no video of that. That's unfortunate because it was a good one.
I mean, Jeff, I'm glad you're okay.
Oh.
No, but to your point, I remember talking to you at the match. We weren't on the same squad. I think I was a squad behind you. But anyway, I heard what happened. I want to make sure you were all right that I asked for a video. But, you shot a pretty solid match after that. It's I've never gone down at a match like that, but it's funny. It's not funny like haha, but at that same match, I've got a pair of like traction type shoes that I wear. I left them in the hotel because I like to change shoes throughout the match, just something different. It seems to keep my feet a little bit fresh. But at that particular match, I think they just cut the grass there, and it just rained. It wasn't set up as a bay. So it's not like you had, rock or matted down grass. I mean, that stuff was, I almost did the same exact thing. So, but it's very important though, and we'll take a minute here for a public service announcement. There's, been a lot of discussion about, DQs and ADs and that type of stuff. But in that type of situation, you have to have that presence of mind to make sure the gun's always pointed in a safe direction. There's a lot of folks and a lot of times that, people at your skill level or higher wouldn't have wouldn't have the thought of mind or presence of mind to keep the gun pointed downrange in the safe direction.
Yep.
After all, it's all fun and games, and we, most of us do this to have a good time, and we love the people in the sport and the sense of community, and there's competition involved, but really it's to have fun and, to have a situation where there's an AD or a gun pointed in an unsafe direction, that's an extremely big deal. And that's why USPSA and Steel Challenge takes, these things extremely seriously. And that's why they DQ people for an entire match and not just a session. And so,
Yep.
Yeah,
no, I agree completely. I mean, Outer Limits is a classic one too. I shoot a lot of USPSA and can't move with your finger in the trigger. Well, Outer Limits is the same thing. You can't move with your finger in the trigger. So, in that case, it was a natural not reaction, but a natural occurrence for me to be moving with my finger out of the trigger and then going down on that, something I didn't expect to do, and it's very startling. And it's amazing how, they say time slows down, and it really does. And the first thing you're doing as a shooter is you're going, where's that muzzle?
Yeah,
Keep it down,
absolutely.
keep it down range. If anything does happen there and a shot were to be cracked off, at least it would be away from any person if it's downrange.
Yeah, yeah, and Jeff, you and I talked to somebody that's pretty prominent in the shooting sports, and they had an AD here recently, and the first thing that I know I think about, and I think many other people think about, is, boy, where did the bullet go? Where did the bullet go? And
Yep.
and it's just one of those things that it's, if you've been shooting any period of time, there's going to be, maybe not you, but you're going to know somebody that's in that situation. I've been DQ'd once because I had an accidental discharge. To this day, I don't know if it was an equipment issue or if it was a me issue. I don't feel like I had my finger on the trigger, but, hey, it was first time shooting, a rifle with that light of a trigger. Maybe I touched it during a mag change. Still don't think that I did, but, hey, I took the trigger out, sent it back to the manufacturer. But you know what the most important part was? The gun was pointed in a safe direction.
Yep.
Nobody's going to get shot if a gun's pointed in a safe direction. So,
well, since we're talking about it, someone that we've mentioned before on the podcast, someday might be able to get him on at the Factory Gun Nationals. BJ Norris DQ'd, and people were asking him for the video, and he posted a Facebook post, which I thought was a very class act. And he said, I'm not going to post the video of the DQ because it's not going to matter. Call was made. The ROs have a tough job to do. It's not a job he wants, but he respects the job that they do. The call was made. He stands by the call. And I thought that was a pretty class act move. And most of us that have had a DQ, and I've been DQ'd for an AD in the past as well, and you did it. And you might try to talk yourself out of it, but you did it. It happened. So and to your point too, and we've talked with a number of people. It's something. I mean, the DQ shirt that's going around isn't really making light of the fact that DQ happened. I think
agreed.
It's to reassure people that, hey, the way I look at it, look at the number of people that are on this shirt already. It happens. You got to take your lumps at that match and get to the next match and not let it happen again. If you do that, you're fine.
Yeah, and Jeff, I posted something out there when there was a lot of discussion going on here, I don't know, 2-3 months ago about the DQ shirt. And, there's some folks out there that felt like the DQ shirt was making fun of DQs. And my response was the exact opposite. I think that it brings a little bit of levity to a very, very serious situation, because I think that, in my day job, I work in an industrial facility, and I'm responsible for, 800 people on a day-to-day basis. And, we raise people's level of safety awareness when we're talking about safety. We talk about safety during startup meetings. We talk about safety during, safety talks, and we have weekly safety conversations with our teams. And the reason why we do that is that everybody gets complacent, but if you interject thoughts of safety, your safety awareness automatically goes up. And to me, that's what the DQ shirt represents. It's acknowledgement that these things happen within the shooting community, but the DQ shirt itself raises that awareness that, hey, other people do it as well, but it's going to be top of mind, because if you just thought about, a post that somebody said about the DQ shirt on a Friday afternoon, you're out on the range, your level of awareness of not DQing is higher than what it was if you didn't see the post about the DQ shirt. And I'm sure that'll generate some topics, or some discussion on this topic. But the intent of the DQ shirt and people that post pictures of DQs, I think, in my interpretation, is they're trying to raise awareness to a very, very serious situation that people did handle their guns safely, and they had an AD, it didn't go over the berm and didn't go past the 180 and XYZ 123, and that's why, even when I train people, even if they're experienced shooters, you know what the first thing we do? We sit down and talk about firearm safety.
Yep.
And regardless of where you're at, here's what my rules are at, and I take the NRA safety gun handling rules and I add my own spin to it, because there's nothing more that it's just going to take a lot of the fun out of the situation if someone throws one over the berm or if someone points a muzzle at somebody else. It's not that kind of party, because again, we're out here having a good time. We're not making millions of dollars shooting, and that's the number one way of not making it a good time is having one of those safety type situations that hopefully none of us experience.
100% agree. 100% agree on all points. Well, Steve, this is a great talk. We got some stage breakdown and a whole bunch of other topics in there. I'm pretty pleased. I, again, want to thank everybody who listens to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Steve and I were looking at some of the numbers on the past ones, and they're up there, and we appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us. It's enjoyable for us, and hopefully you're enjoying them as well.
And thanks to everybody for their support, especially Steel Target Paint. Please use discount code STPodcast10 to get 10% off your order at rangestore.net. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Don't forget, everybody, one shot, one steel.